Thank you, everyone. It's so wonderful that so many of you stayed. Wasn't that a brilliant performance and so moving? My name is Terri Paddock. I am not connected with the King's Head or this production. I chair a lot of post-show Q&As at all sorts of productions all over the place, and it's my very great pleasure to do so, especially for something that I think is so important. And I love this piece. I came to see it yesterday. There was another fantastic post-show Q&A after yesterday's matinee, chaired by a history professor from the Imperial War Museum. So you're stuck with me, and I'm just a theater person who loves talking about productions. But was anyone at yesterday's performance? No? Okay, great. Well, I'm sure we will cover a lot of the same ground. But with these Q&As, I can talk with people on stage, who I'll introduce you to in a moment, and fill up the time. We've got about 25 minutes or so. There is another show after, so we have a hard stop. But it's much more interesting if you ask the questions. Just so you know, so let me introduce you first, but save your applause. Mark Liebert is the director of the piece that you just saw. Christopher Gibbs, obviously the star, and his wife and producer, Nancy Gibbs. I start all my Q&As with a few questions to get we learn a little bit more about the audience, so the questions are for the audience, but you guys can answer the questions too. So audience, first of all, any of you on social media? Anyone on social media? Okay, those of you on social media, please do feel free to put your phones on, but keep them on silent. You are permitted to take photos of the Q&A. We are recording it, and we will be sharing the film via the King's Head's channels tomorrow. If you can share to your networks, that really helps spread the word about the show. We want every performance to be as full as today, and if possible, fuller. So if you are on social media, the handles, this is the Twitter handle for the King's Head Theatre and the Instagram handle, and if you want to use a hashtag Wiesenthal, seems a reasonable one to use. If you are on the hellscape known previously as Twitter, I'm on there too, and if you do tag me, then I can also share your tweets, and that helps as well. Got it, great, thank you. Very good. So, can you hear okay? Can everyone hear all right?
No.
No, you can't hear okay. Okay, we will project as much as possible, won't we? We are going to project. Okay. Finally, is there anyone in the audience who had not heard of Simon Wiesenthal before booking tickets to this? Anyone? You all knew of him. Fantastic. Okay. Anybody in the audience who had relatives who survived the Holocaust? Yes? Anyone in the audience who had relatives who did not survive the Holocaust? Rather more. Very good. Any historians in the audience? I said you could raise your hand.
Oh. Yes, I'm a historian.
Very good. And who knows they've already got a question they want to ask? Okay, well, we'll come to you first, and everybody else, please don't be shy. I have this all the time. We run out of time, and suddenly in the final 2 minutes, all the hands go up, and then you leave disappointed, and we don't want anyone left disappointed. For those of you here on the stage with me, obviously you know the piece and the production better than we do, so steer us in the right direction if we're missing something really key. I know that we will talk a lot about the historical significance of the play, but just before we do that, I with my theater hat on, I wanted to talk about the artistic journey that you've had with this piece. So, Wiesenthal, the play, was written by an American performer and playwright named Tom Dugan. He has been performing it himself in the United States since about 2009. It had its Off-Broadway premiere in 2014. Christopher and Nancy came across it and wanted to put it on themselves. And so let's start there. How did you first come across this piece? And Christopher, why did you want to perform it?
I was teaching, and one of my students, I was teaching classes of senior citizens until I became one. Then they let me retire. One of my students, a guy named Don Schwartz, loved theater, came to see how I was doing theater, came to see my shows, told me about Tom's production, told me to go see it. Nancy and I went to see it, loved it, told Mark and Judy to go see it. They loved it, and then Don asked me if I could do the show at Temple Sinai in Summit, New Jersey. And I said, well, yes, I can, but I'll need a director and a stage manager. And he loved theater, but didn't understand how it worked. Why do you need a director? I don't understand. He agreed, talked to Mark, and Mark and I started working on it. We were scheduled to perform at Temple Sinai in Summit, New Jersey, to coincide with Yom HaShoah of 2020. It happened that at the time I was also appearing as Otto Frank in a production of The Diary, also in Summit, New Jersey, just coincidence. And then the pandemic hit, and our appointed date was put back, and was put back, and was put back. And finally, as the pandemic eased, Mark and I did the show at several theaters in New Jersey that we worked in before, and we finally got a chance to do it on the Bima at Temple Sinai. 21, Don had died. He had died of cancer and never saw the final show. So every time I do it, it's for Don Schwartz.
Oh, goodness, I'm sorry to hear that. Mark, what did you think when Christopher brought this to you? Had you been familiar with the piece before?
Well, they gave us tickets. They said, you got to go see this. We saw it. We were tremendously moved by it. I didn't put my hand up before, but I did have relatives who were German Jews who, two of them didn't make it out, two of them did, but later died by their own hands, and I think there were so many more than the 6 million, the 11 million, who just had trouble going on after that. So it spoke to me personally. I also recognized it as a brilliant piece of theater. Tom Dugan wrote a masterful piece. I mean, as theater artists, you die for a piece that's meaningful, that makes people laugh, cry, think, and hopefully are moved to take that experience they've had in the theater and take it out into their lives with them. So I jumped at the opportunity. We had had the opportunity before this to do several shows together, and we are really simpatico in the way we work. And with the pandemic and all, because we are so process oriented, as opposed to a setback, we found it an opportunity to dive into this script. And we've been at it for 5.5 years now, and it has not gotten old. The text is amazing, and it's just so rich that we continue to craft what we do here.
What do you mean exactly when you say process-oriented in a creative environment? What does that mean?
The play, the text, unlike a novel, a script is a scaffolding, and you have to bring, you do research, you bring your own experience, your own emotional history to be able to carve out this, and we work collaboratively to do this. So those moments in the show where, as in a piece of music where you take a rest, we have done that. The moments where Wiesenthal takes a breath and gets a drink of water, those aren't random. Those aren't. They are.
Although I do appreciate the glass of water, but yeah, that's choreographed.
So
It's so wonderfully paced, isn't it? It brings out so much further nuance to what we are witnessing.
That pacing is not automatic. That pacing, tempo, speed. A lot of actors confuse those, but the pacing is what Mark and I worked on and worked on and worked on to make it have the kind of impact it has. It's been wonderful. It really has.
Wonderful. let me bring Nancy into this then. So no art, no theatre art ever happens without the crucial role of the producer. So Nancy, they discussed doing it first in New Jersey. Why did you, as you two based in New Jersey, then want to bring the show first to the UK? It was a hit last year at the Edinburgh Fringe, sold out at the Pleasance Courtyard, and now come back for this London premiere season.
I'm a commercial general manager and producer on Broadway, and Chris has done a lot of community theater and a lot of work, and this one was a very special piece. And we were visiting a friend in Scotland in 2022, and we went to the Fringe Festival for 3 or 4 days. And he said, well, why don't we try to bring this to the Fringe? And we...
You said that. Her idea, all her.
But you said yes.
Don't I always?
No comment. So we just, as a general manager, it's like, I don't know how to produce at the Fringe, so I'll get a general manager, and our general manager guided us to the right venue, the pricing, did everything to help us build the framework to be very successful at Edinburgh, and we got excellent reviews. And then that general manager has been very involved with King's Head. So this January he said, would you like to do a couple of weeks at the King's Head? It's like, I don't know the King's Head. And he says, brand new theater. I mean, there's been a pub theater and it's got a brand new theater. What do you think? And so we said, okay. So here we are.
I said, I should think a minute.
And then you said yes.
And then I said yes, instantly.
And I can ask this as a fellow American myself, but is it meaningful for you guys to bring a show to London audiences?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a dream come true.
Absolutely, yes. It's London. Come on, the man who is tired of London is tired of life. It's London.
Well, we as Londoners are very happy that you did. Okay, so let's get to the first audience question.
Hi. So I think what struck me about the play was that how many of the themes are still so relevant in our post-October 7th world. And one of the themes touched on was Holocaust denial, which now I think you can really say it's being weaponized to the extreme. And I wonder how Simon would have dealt with it in today's world, but also I think one of the remedies is education, and it's educating perhaps a younger, perhaps a wider demographic that's in this room. You mentioned that you brought a play to the Edinburgh Fringe. I just wondered if there's any plans moving forward to try and roll this out more specifically to educational institutions, schools, colleges, really where the education about the Holocaust is needed.
I mean, our understanding is that the Holocaust education is mandatory in the UK system, and so it's not really very viable to take a show like this into one school at a time. It's also not very viable to do it in the US. You know, it's the way theater works best is you do it and then people come to see it. So we would love for you to tell anybody who needs this education to come see the show. We have 6 more performances left, and we'd love them to come see it. But it's not really mobile in that way. It was just like Don Schwartz said, oh, just come do it at the synagogue. Just stand up there and do it. And Mark and Chris have worked on it because it's very choreographed. It's very, every pause, every
Sound
part
here.
of it is brought together. And you can't just like show up and like, it's not a monologue in that way. It's a play.
But that is a great idea. Come back and bring in a teenager. I think, yeah, come back and bring in a teenager.
Well, it's not teenagers. I think it's the 18
Okay, a young person, under whichever age group you want. But I will mention that Tom Dugan, the playwright, has published a book and including an education guide as part of that book.
Yes.
So there are other materials available. But I take your point, and I'll just pick up on an element of it that I will throw into the panel. It struck me that the line in the play of what happens when barbarism meets technology. That I think of again and again, and it's to your point, we now have the technology that worries me most is the information technology, the social media, the disinformation that is rife online. Yes, I know, I'm sorry. I realize the irony of that. So, yes.
If you go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., one of the things, at least the last time I was there, which was a couple of months ago, you will find an IBM punch card machine that IBM provided to help the Nazis sort the people they were killing. Not that long ago.
Yeah. And also the Imperial War Museum here in London has a fantastic Holocaust exhibit. It's very educational.
Yeah, but you're right. I think the technology is almost used. We have information now, but not enough knowledge. The information is actually obscuring in many ways the truth because of the blizzard of it available. Yes, hand here.
Are you taking it on anywhere after here?
We don't have plans at the moment for that.
They've come from the United States
I mean,
especially
You
to
want to
meet us.
know, you can get a hold of her. She is
Yeah,
the producer.
We would need major underwriting, and so if you're
Yeah,
ready
if
to
there are
write
any
a check, let us
producers-
know.
Producers or investors in the audience, we want the investors.
Yeah, money.
Yes, hand here.
Can I ask you what I find a difficult question to ask, but since you got involved in this project and October the 7th happened, has what's been going on in the Middle East affected your feelings about what you're teaching, if you like?
I'll tell you, yes, October 7th had tremendous impact. But it wasn't like there wasn't impact and a need before that. I mean, certainly in the States, Trump's rise to power, the parallels with Hitler's rise to power are frightening. The anti-Semitism, the
Misogyny,
yeah,
the racism,
the anti-Semitism,
anti-immigrant.
the anti-immigrant, it's all been, it's
there.
raging and it's teetering. We're teetering on the brink.
We have seen this before. This is the point of the play. We have seen, this is not new. This is not new.
But in addition to the post-October 7th world, as laid out so beautifully in the play, Simon Wiesenthal is saying, you know, all genocides, all crimes.
Of course.
It's not just about.
I will tell you a thing. Holocaust denial is the popular concern, and God knows Simon was it was a trial I wanted, not another dead body. Okay. The people, Holocaust deniers are widely recognized as knuckle draggers, as morons, as flat earthers. I'm sorry, they just are. But if in the U.S. you see a sweatshirt, you see a young man with a sweatshirt, SMWE, SMWE. What that stands for is 6 million wasn't enough. And these people are getting out to vote for Donald Trump in the U.S. These people want to deport all immigrants. For God's sake, the U.S. is a nation of immigrants. Who are they going to deport? Well, you, obviously.
I'm coming here.
So if we don't honestly try to understand how it happened, then it is happening now.
It is. After I saw the play yesterday, I went home and watched the Odessa File.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I did. And what I found, the thing that really disturbed me about, if you didn't know, you would think, like, the Odessa, that must have been made up by Frederick Forsyth. That was
no.
real, as you say in the play, to get the Nazis out of Europe. But what even really struck me, coming to your point about Donald Trump, the star of that film is Jon Voight.
Yes.
Jon Voight still is alive, an Oscar-winning actor, and he is a huge Trump supporter, and he uses his social media platforms.
Yes, he does, to promote
To
Trump.
promote Donald Trump.
Yes, he does.
You would think he had not learned from that experience.
Nope.
Question here.
Yeah, I'd like to know, have any of the descendants or relations of Simon Wiesenthal contacted you or vice versa?
Have any of Simon Wiesenthal's relatives contacted you or Tom?
I mean, not us, I mean, maybe Tom, we don't know.
Yeah, I think Tom has been in touch. When I live in Florida now, I left New Jersey, and I saw Tom do the Wiesenthal in the theater down there, and there was a talk back afterwards, and there was a gentleman that he introduced to everybody by the name of Jack Schwartz. Jack Schwartz is the one who wrote the $7,000 check to Mr. Schnapps. He is, there was a group of Zionists in New York who in 1965, Simon's was closing his office, he couldn't go on anymore, and they established a new office for him in Vienna. So I did have the privilege of meeting Jack Schwartz, but
Has Tom Dugan seen your production?
No. We did a production at a theater Mark and I worked in, a proscenium stage, very traditional, and it was videoed, and
It was an in-house video
Yeah,
for
in-house
the
video.
people involved only.
you can't see it.
We can't sell it, it's.
No, but we did send a copy. So he's seen our version of his show. Yes.
Very good. There was a hand over here. Did I see a hand over there? Okay, a hand in the back there.
Nowadays, you see a lot of people being called Nazis, far right, etc. The use of this language is very prevalent in discourse at the moment. Where do you think we should draw the line at acceptable use of calling somebody Nazi? And how do you think Simon would have felt about that?
Ooh, yes. So the question is that very often now the terms such as Nazis get bandied about, far right,
Yes.
fascist.
Yes.
Do you think they're overused? Should there be rules to how they're used? And how might Simon Wiesenthal feel about how they are used today in these terms?
It's a really good question. The fact is, though, the English language has lots and lots of words for those people that don't require, you don't need to call them Nazis, racist, bigot, misogynist, moron. So it's easy enough to avoid those words, and I agree that they tend to get overused. Our favorite person, Donald Trump, has referred to his opponent as a Nazi and a communist. Well, the fact, I mean, of course he's an idiot, but the fact is you can't be both. So the terms, at least, okay, from my point of view as a historian, don't use the word. No, call him what he is. Call these people what they are. The 6 million that wasn't enough, those people are dangerous, violent racists. You don't need to call them anything else. That's exactly what they are.
Very good. Yes, here?
I don't really want to ask a question, but I just wanted to kind of refer to what the lady said over there at the beginning about Holocaust education.
Yes.
It's really strong in this country. I'm on 2 committees, and this gentleman here was also very heavily into Holocaust education. I know from my 2 committees, we got to 51,000 students on one committee, and the other one, we went into schools and prisons and anywhere that would hear us with second-generation stories using clips of videos from the Shoah Foundation. So it's like having the person in the room, even though they're no longer with us. So it's really, and it's needed more than ever.
Thank you. Well, perhaps you should join up. Yes, in the front row here.
So mine's more about the performance.
Okay.
So within about a minute or 2 of the performance, I suddenly thought I was watching Simon Wiesenthal. Is there any point during that portrayal of the character that you become the part, or are you just a very professional actor?
Oh.
May I quickly, because I'm not sure everybody in the back heard, okay? So the question is, he's praising the performance and that he forgot he was watching a performance early on because Christopher seemed to inhabit and become Simon Wiesenthal. And if you've seen photos of Simon Wiesenthal, you don't look like him.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. So
No,
do you feel
it
that
is,
you become him?
it is very important that I do not become Simon Wiesenthal. As an actor, I'm committed to the text. As an actor, everything I need to know about Simon Wiesenthal, Tom Simon Wiesenthal, is in the play. I learn the lines, I do the show. If the expression is don't get lost in the part, it's very important that I always know that I am me playing a part. It's essential. I can never, because if I do, I lose my place. I mean, I would forget lines. I forget enough lines as it is. But if I start thinking that I'm Simon Wiesenthal and get into that, then I'm in trouble.
Well, you fooled me.
Yeah.
That is the magic of theater. That is,
And it's a great compliment.
that is, and I thank you very much, but it is Tom's play, it is Mark's direction, it is the hours and hours and hours that we put in to make it all look so easy.
Yeah. I'm watching it for the second day in a row. I was moved all over again. So kind of a follow-on from that, you don't believe you are Simon Wiesenthal, but do you get moved performing it? Is it emotionally draining?
Okay. Do I get, is it emotionally draining to do the show? Yes, it is. Partly because I say such terrible things. Whether I'm playing a Nazi, I play a number of Nazis. But some of Simon's lines, female bodies were used as kindling. I really need a drink of water after that is an extremely difficult line to say, and by the end of the show, yeah, I'm kind of wasted. It's not physically demanding. It's not like Lear where I have to, bring Cordelia on. I don't have to carry Mark in. But it is emotionally draining, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and second from the back row, please. Yes, you with glasses.
What help did Simon Wiesenthal get from the Allies after the Second World War? And if not much, why not much?
So the question is about Simon Wiesenthal. How much support did he receive from Allied forces after the war? And if not, why not?
Okay, that American captain who offered up to me some sage advice, Simon was very quickly scooped up by Army intelligence and spent months and months and months working for counterintelligence, Army intelligence, identifying war criminals. And he stayed with the government for quite a long time, the U.S. government. At a certain point, as we know, with pursuing the Nazi war criminals, the interest waned. Simon set up on his own, but at the beginning, and he, if you see the documentary, I Have Never Forgotten You, there's a guy in it that worked with Simon, Army intelligence guy, worked very closely with Simon. He was not abandoned. Situations changed, he went out on his own, but he was very tight with Army intelligence for a couple of years.
Again, watching the Odessa file, I was struck again by some of the parallels, because that is set in 1963,
right.
And they are commenting that the public at that time is already getting sick of the trials, the Nuremberg trials. People have lost interest. They don't want to think about that sad stuff. They want to move on. And coming to Donald Trump, the January 6th committee hearings,
yes.
all of that, we hear that again and again and again. People want to talk. They want to talk about it. Let's just move on.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's forget it. But it's important, historian, to remember. As the play says, we have to remember. Yes,
Have
sir.
you ever performed this play in front of a different looking audience to this? An audience that thinks differently? Or do your audiences always look like different?
What are you saying?
I'm saying we are your audience.
Okay, so
Yes.
white,
And we
middle class,
understand what you're saying.
large proportion of Jewish audience.
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're always preaching to the choir. We would love, yeah, everybody brings somebody in who doesn't know Simon, who doesn't know the story, who thinks that this is just history.
I was really surprised that there were no hands that said they hadn't heard of Simon Wiesenthal, because when I was telling people I was doing this, most people I spoke to didn't know him, and I was shocked by that. I was really shocked by that.
I mean, the nature of theater is everyone here decided they would come and buy a ticket for this show, so they had some interest in it. Something caught their attention. So when they knew
But sometimes
of
it's a
him or
friend
not.
who buys the ticket and everybody
Correct,
comes,
that's
or
right,
they just
that's
heard
right.
it was a good show.
But
Yeah.
I would say it's the Trump followers who need to know about the show.
Yeah.
Not that it would make any difference, I'm
No.
sorry. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What interested me, among the many things that interested me in the play, was Wiesenthal's take on the nature of evil. And basically, he was saying, actually, Terri, you'll remember this from the end of the Odessa, where a character goes to Yad Vashem and says, in a voiceover, I don't believe that peoples are evil, only individuals are evil. And that seems to be the message that,
Oh, yes.
that Wiesenthal. And the reason I raise this is because, in light of October 7th and so on, a columnist in the Jewish Chronicle, which is a Jewish publication, last week, called Tanya Gold, sort of half-jokingly said, I'm not sure whether anti-Semites think that the destiny of the Jews is death, is to die. That is their destiny. And I just wonder whether, in fact, that is what those who are attacking Israel today, those Nazis who persecuted Jews in the 1930s wars, felt that actually it's the destiny of Jews to die. Do you think that would be Wiesenthal's view? That was the thought process in the Jewish enemy, that their destiny is to die?
That's a really huge moral question. And Simon was an extremely practical guy. This is what I do. I find the criminal, I find witnesses, I give the information to Austria, West Germany. Simon was way too practical. Of course, he thought about these things, but he very clearly he wanted the trial. He wanted sworn testimony in open court so that people would see this is what happened. This is what, and you can't deny it, you can't pretend. These are sworn testimonies. The destiny of the Jewish people, I'm not sure where Simon, I don't even know if Simon was an observant Jew, to be honest with you. Not that it mattered.
Okay.
But I think he really believed that hate is learned.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's why we keep going back to talk about education. And unfortunately in the States now, and particularly in a state like Florida where the governor is another moron, but he has enough followers in the legislature, so they keep passing legislation so they can't teach about slavery or any, because some white person might be offended by that. What is that?
In case people don't know, the governor of Florida is Ron DeSantis, who ran against Trump and tried to out-Trump Trump. But we only have a few minutes left, so let's see all the final hands, and we'll just hear the questions, okay? And then we'll try to answer as many as we can, and then wind up. Yeah.
The man at the end, the Nazi, was he ever found for trial?
Who was Alois Brunner ever found?
Oh, no. The reality is that in the real world, Alois Brunner was probably dead by that time.
Okay, let's hear everything and then we'll answer. Okay, yep.
A practical question. Given that you have your sources, you've made the video, although it's obviously an internal video, isn't there room to make a video that could be licensed, or I know it's a lot of...
We think that Tom Dugan is working on some kind of film representation of the show. But that all generates from the author and not the actor.
Yes.
So that generates from the author.
Okay, very good. Were there other hands? Other hands? Oh yeah, sorry, in the back row, and then we'll come to the front row. These two. The back row? Yes?
It's not a question, it's just something I would like to share. It's very personal. I'm actually going to Poland next weekend. They have what they call a Jewish cultural festival all over Poland, which they've been doing for 22 years. And I was confused about why they do this. It's to commemorate or to remember the Jews. That's the idea. And the reason that I'm involved is because I started to research my father's family history some years ago. My father passed away, and I got interested, and I'm sure a lot of people here have maybe done the same thing and gone that journey. And as a result of that, last year I went to Poland and I have organised a memorial to the victims of my father's family. So we commemorated them, and that's why I'm invited to go next weekend, because they're rededicating a Jewish cemetery in a former shtetl there. And so
I'm so sorry, we're going to have to speak up just a little bit.
what I
Yeah.
wanted to say was that at the end of your play tonight, I was very moved because a friend asked me today, a friend actually from Israel, well, why are you going? You know, what the hell do you need this for? And it's difficult to explain why, but it's for Albert. It's for the sunflower.
Albert.
It's because
He's here for Albert.
Oh, thank you.
I trust you. So it's us and future generations that have the responsibility to remember.
Yes.
Thank you.
So she's saying a very personal story, connection with a town in.
Question right there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. And the front row.
It may be a one-word answer. So, just about the play, has it evolved in any way, or have you had to change it for a UK audience, or is it as was?
Don't answer that yet. Yes. I'll recap it.
Anti-Semitism existed for 2,000 years, and do you think that possibly the Holocaust is an overemphasis on just that one aspect of anti-Semitism and murder of Jews, which has gone on for 2,000 years?
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that's well. Okay. I mean, the Holocaust is an. It happened.
Yes, it happened. Of course it happened.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there's lots of others.
And there are lots of plays about other aspects of.
And we're just going to educate about the Holocaust.
Okay, so and she is asking, did you make any changes for UK audiences?
No.
So it is as is. It's always
Yes.
been the same. Like,
So if you get the script of the play, you will have that, then you can order that script. So a British actor could do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and get the
Might
rights
work on
to
the
do it.
accent, but,
I think we've got to leave it there. I just want a quick one that I would love for you all to answer, echoing something that was said earlier. If Simon Wiesenthal was in the audience with us here tonight, what would you want to say to him, or what would you want him to take away from your performance?
We remember our.
yeah, we are remembering. We are.